So we're up to way down on the bottom of the page um, of 22b, Chav Beis Amud Beis. We're still talking about the laws of mourning and customs, traditions for mourning. So next goes now a brisa. Ton Rabbanon. We learned in a brisa that Chacham Shemes. There are various different categories. One is called a Chacham. That's a teacher of a certain area. Then there comes an Av Bezdin, that's the head of the court. And then you have a Nossi, that's the leader. So there's different levels of participation in the mourning between each one of these people. So we're going to learn now. Tana Rabbana, we learned in a Braisa. Chochem Shemes, a Chochem who dies, base Medrashe bottle. So then his study hall is idle, which means in respect for the passing of the Chacham, the Beis Medrash stops. Beis Medrash betelim sagt Rashi, oisom sheregilim lilmed Torah mipiv. It's only that particular study hall, those who were accustomed to learn Torah from this Chacham, he was their rabbi, he was their sage, so they would, in honor and to respect for the Chacham, they would stop the Beis Medrash for the mourning period. Av based in Shemez, but if you have the head of the court, so you had a court, you had 70, if it's a court of 70, so you had the head of the court, or if it's a court of 23, whatever the head of the court is, if he dies, Kol bote medrashis shabeire betelim. So all study halls in the city are stopped, basically in honor of the Av Bezdin, because he is the head of the court. So not only the place like by the Chacham where he taught, but basically all study halls in the city are stopped. On top of that, the nichnosim lebeis hakneses u'mishanin es mekoyme. You go into the shul and people change their places, which means they don't sit on the usual place, which articulates now in the Braise, Hayoshvim Betzofen, those who normally sit to the north, Yoshvim Bedorim, they sit in the south. Hayoshvim Bedorim, those who sit in the south, Yoshvim Betzofen, they will sit in the north. Basically, they change their seats so that people can say we're not the usual, we're in mourning now. Nosi Shemes, now this is the highest level. The leader of the generation, the Nosi, Bote Medrashes Kulam Betelim. All studied, not only in the city, but in the whole land, I guess. They're all Botel. Bote Medrashes Kulam, not just the city, but all the Bote Medrashes. Ubnei HaKnesses, and the people of the shul, Nichnosim Lebeis HaKnesses, they go into the shul, turn the page to Chav Gimel Amud Aleph. They go to shul, Vekoidim Shiva, and this is talking on Shabbos. You read 7 aliyahs, that's the mitzvah of Kriyas HaTorah on Shabbos. V'yotzim, and they leave. They don't daven with a minyan out of mourning and respect for the Nosi, for the leader. V'koidim Shiva Zokt Rashi b'Sefer Torah. The 7 you read, that's in the Sefer Torah. And Rashi says, the ein mispalelin yachad beveis hakneses. We don't daven all together in the shul, elokol echad ve'echad mispalel bebeisei, but rather each one davens in their own home. So, okay, no shul for the morning period of the Nosi. Just Kriyas HaTorah, and then everybody davens at home. Rabbi Shua ben Korcha Omer, Rabbi Shua ben Korcha, he says, when we say that there's no davening is loy sheyelchu v'yitalilu b'shuk. It doesn't mean they should go out and start going for a stroll in the marketplace. There's no davening, so we can go ahead and have a good time. Elo yoshvim v'daimim, but rather you sit and you're silent. You don't daven, but you don't go ahead having a good time. Further,
Does that mean you don't daven or you don't daven with a minion?
well,
What
that would have been Rashi said before. But basically, the thing should be in a subdued way. It's not intended for uh, taking time off, but to sit and be silent and reflect, I guess, on the passing of the Nasi. Now, continues on Shabbos, ve'ein oimrim shmua ve'agoda beveis ha'ovel. You don't give over a teaching. A shmua means some news, some of learning or agoda in the house of the mourners. So basically, there's no uh, learning over there. He says in the house of the ovel, and that would imply that even on Shabbos. However, the Gemara says, the Brisa says, Amru Allah al Rabbi Chananya ben Gamliel. They said about Rabbi Chaim ben Gamliel, Shahoya Oimer Shmua v'Agoda b'Beis Ovel. He would say the teaching and the Agoda in the house. He did not, because on Shabbos, as we'll see later on, he's of the view there is no mourning on Shabbos at all. Others say that there is some mourning, things that are done quietly, you keep on mourning. This would be like Dvarim Shebetzina. But he says you can say Shmu V'Agoda when we're talking about Shabbos. We'll see in the Gemara. Tana Rabbana. We have another Brisa. Ovil, a mourner, Shabbos Rishona, on the first Shabbos of his mourning, Eina Yotzim B'Pesach Beisei. He doesn't leave his door entrance, meaning he has to stay home the first Shabbos. Shnia, the second Shabbos, Yoitze, he can go out. But Ve'ena Yoshev B'Mekoimei, he doesn't sit in his usual place, changes spots. Shlishis, the third Shabbos, Yoshev B'Mekoimei, you go back to your place, sits in his place. Ve'ena Medaber, but he doesn't speak. And the Revi'is, and on the fourth one, Haruk Chol Odom, then he's like every other person. So back to normal. So he gives you 4 weeks. The first one, you don't go out. The second one, you go out, but you don't sit in your regular place. On the third one, you sit in the regular place and you're silent. And on the fourth one, you're like everybody. Rabbi Yehuda Eimer, Rabbi Yehuda says, no, you got it wrong. We have to move it all up 1 week ahead further because they did not need to tell you that on the first Shabbos he shouldn't go out of his house. You don't have to say that. Why? For sure, he doesn't leave out this house. People are still going in to comfort him on Shabbos. So how would he leave? So you don't have to tell us the first Shabbos. You have to move it all up, starting with the second Shabbos. Elo, and we go 5 Shabbos, not 4 like we had it before. Elo, Shnia, the second Shabbos, he doesn't go out from his home. On Shlishis, on the third Shabbos, he goes out, but he doesn't sit on his place. The Revi is on the fourth one. He sits on his place, but he doesn't speak. And Chamish is he's like everybody else. So we actually just moved it up one step. Instead of starting with the first Shabbos, that you don't go out, that's not, he says it doesn't apply to the first Shabbos, because of course he doesn't go out because people are still coming to uh come to comfort him. So how would you leave? So therefore, that goes without saying. We learn further in a Braisa. Says the Braise that kol shloishim yoim l'nisuyim. That for the entire 30 days of the morning, he's not allowed to get married. Kol shloishim yoim l'nisuyim ad shloishim yoim la'achar evloi. Up to 30 days after the morning, Eina yochel lisa isha, he's not able, he's not allowed to marry. Not allowed to marry. So this would apply to any avelus, that you have to wait 30 days before you can get married after you're in mourning. But what happens, Mesa Ishtoi, if you're in mourning for your wife because she dies, then it says, Osur Lisa Isha Acheres, he's prohibited to marrying another woman, Ache Yavru Olav Shalosh Regolim, until 3 holidays goes through. After the wife passed away, he has to wait for 3 Yomim Tovim, and only afterwards can he get married. As the Gemara says, they shouldn't look like, oh, he couldn't wait for his wife to die, and he ran right away. As she dies, he goes and marries somebody else. You have to wait at least 3 holidays before you're married. That's the opinion of the Tanakama. But Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. He says, Regel Rishon V'Sheni Osur, the first and the second Yontiv, it's prohibited. But Shlishi is mutar, the third one is permissible. You don't have to wait 3, you have to wait 2. You have to wait for the first and second one to, up to then it's prohibited. But you don't have to wait by the third one, it's already permissible. Now the exception to the case, Vim Ein Loi Bonim, if he doesn't have any sons, so he doesn't have to delay mutar lisa le'alter. Then he's allowed to marry immediately. Mishum bittul piri v'rivya, not to waste time to become a fruit to multiply. In other words, to as early as possible to have a chance to have children. And the same thing is, another exception would be hinicha loy bonim katanim. If she left him small children, they need a mother in the house. Mutter lisal alter, then he's allowed to marry immediately, doesn't have to wait. Mipnei parnasosom, because of their sustaining them. They need somebody, they need a mother in the house, and that's why you don't have that restrictions, you don't have that limitation. The Gemara relates, Maisa Shemesa Ishta Shel Yosef HaKohen. There was a story that the wife of Yosef HaKohen died. So Omar la'achoyso beveis hakvoros, he already said to her sister at the cemetery, Lichi uparnesi as b'nei achoyso, go ahead and support the children of your sister. Basically, he wants her to become their mom, his wife's, who passed away, her sister. And he didn't actually marry her right away. Still, he did not marry her for a long time. So while the support, she started right away, as he asked his wife's sister to be a support. Still, he didn't marry her until much later. The Gemara Mailis Mandiru, but what means much later? Means after 30 days. So he waited the 30 days, because even though we gave an exception that you don't have to wait 30 days, you can marry right away because you have small children, but he waited anyways for 30 days. We learn further in the Braise. Kol shloishim yoim, the entire 30 days, legihuts. So that for ironing them, to press the garments for 30 days, you can't wear pressed garments. Echad kelim chadoshim, echad kelim yeshenim. Yotzim metoich hamichbash. Whether it's actually brand new garments, or they're old garments, but they're coming out of the michbash, meaning the press, and they look like new. Uh, Michbash means where you like the laundered, you laundered them. They used to use a michbash to launder the clothes. So v'echad kelim yeshenim yoytze b'techa michbash, whether it's older garments that are coming from the michbash, pirush shehem kichadoshim. That is means that they're like new, coming out of the michbash. They're like new. So he says 30 days, no new clothes at all. New or washed clothes that are coming out, that's also prohibited. But the Rebbe disagrees. He says, "Lo osru elokelim chadoshim bilvad." If you iron them, you wash them through, they went through the laundry, that's not prohibited. Only brand new clothing is osur, not ones that were washed. Rabbi Lezer Reb Shimon, he's more lenient. He says, Rabbi Lezer Reb Shimon, he says, Lo osru elokelim chadoshim levonim bilvad. The only thing that are prohibited is new garments that are white. If you have a colored shirt, for example, that would be okay, according to Rabbi Lezer Reb Shimon. He says only new white ones. So the first Tana holds whether new or old. The Rebbe holds only new, but he says only white. The only thing that is prohibited is white new garments. So the Gemara, Abayi Nofek Begardo de Sarbelo. Garba de Sarbelo, Rashi says, Malbush Lovon, it is a white garment, Meguhotz, that has been ironed, but it was Yoshon. That's a Gardo de Sarbelo. So he followed the opinion of Rebbe that a Garda, while he was mourning, because he follows the opinion of Rebbe that only brand new garments are not allowed, not ironed ones. That's why he went out in Avelus with a garda de sarbelo. Kirebi like Rebbe. The Omar lo osru lavon elochodesh. He said that white is not prohibited, only if it's new. So he went out. Rava nofik bichimutso. Rava went out with a shirt, rumisa, that came from Rome. Chamitza is chaluk, rumisa shabo mereim. It came from Rome. So he put on a Roman coat, sumka chadati. It was red, it was new. But because it was because it was red, it's Rabbi Lezer Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon Lezer said even a new garment you can, as long as it's colored. Only white you can't wear. Because this was red, he held like Rabbi Lezer Reb Shimon. That's why he wore it during his Avelus. Okay, so now the Gemara says, Shabbos counts a Shiva, and Shabbos doesn't interrupt. In other words, you don't have to start after Shabbos over. Shabbos is counts as the 7 days, and it doesn't interrupt. So the Gemara says now that there's a disagreement, Bnei Yehuda u'Bnei Galila. The people that lived in the Galil and people that lived in Yehuda, they disagreed. Hani Amri, these said, the people that were in one place, they said, Yesh Avelus b'Shabbos. There is mourning on Shabbos. The Hani Amri, the other one said, Ein Avelus b'Shabbos. There's no mourning on Shabbos. So the Gemara explains what was going on. So the Gemara says, Manda Omar Yesh Avelus b'Shabbos, the opinion that holds there is mourning on Shabbos. The Katani Oila, because it says in the Braisa, in the Mishnah, it says that Shabbos counts. How could Shabbos be counted as part of the 7 days? It must be that it's that it counts up for Avelis. That's how come it's one of the 7. It's Oila. That's his proof. Man the Omar ein Avelis b'Shabbos. The one who says there's no Avelis in Shabbos. The Katani Einem Apsekes. It says it does not interrupt. So, what do you mean it doesn't interrupt? If there is Avelis in Shabbos, so there's nothing to interrupt. Isal Kadaituch Yesh Avelus b'Shabbos. If it enters your mind that there is morning on Shabbos, so Hashta Avelus Naga. So since morning is applicable, it's conducted. You conduct yourself in Avelus. Afsuki miboyi. So do you need to tell us that it doesn't interrupt? Of course, it's not going to interrupt. Why should it? Why should we tell you that it doesn't interrupt the shiva when you're conducting the shiva there? So that's a proof that there is yesh that there's no avelus in Shabbos. That's why they has to tell you that it doesn't interrupt. And the first one says because it counts, so it means that there is avelus for Shabbos. So, but the Gemara asks him, okay, you're bringing me a good proof. And you're saying that there's no Avelis because if there was Avelis, why would there, if there was morning on Shabbos, uh, why do you have to tell you that it doesn't interrupt? I mean, it's not, it's applicable. But Belhokatani Oila, but it says that it counts. So it counts means that it's one of the 7 days. So that would mean that there is morning on Shabbos because we're saying Oila, it counts. So the Gemara says, no, it doesn't really mean that it counts, that it's really one of the days. It says, I did the Kaboy Lemisna Sefer. In the Sefer, it talks about Yontif. It says, Yontif, Einon Oilim, they don't count. But, so he says here they count, but it doesn't really count because there's no Avelis in Shabbos. I did the Kaboy Lemisna Sefer, since it says in the Sefer Einam Oilim by Yontiv, Ton the Reisha Oila. So it says in the Reisha that it does count. But it doesn't really count, there is no Avelis there, because that's that opinion that says Ein Avelis b'Shabbos. That's one opinion. Ulaman Da'ama Yesh Avelis b'Shabbos. But on the other one hand, one who says there is Avelis in Shabbos. So, Al Katan Einam Afsekes, why does the Mishnah say it doesn't interrupt? Why should it interrupt you and say that you have Avelis in Shabbos? But since in this Sefer by Yontov it says Mafsikim, Tonaresh and Mafsekas, it doesn't interrupt. But the truth of the matter is, Avelis is Noyeg, there's nothing to be Mafsik over there, but he's just using the language to opposite of the Sefer. The Sefer by Yontov, the Yontov interrupts, so you say by Shabbos doesn't interrupt. So the Gemara says, Leimo Ketanoi. These two opinions, whether Yesh Avelis b'Shabbos or not, should seem to correspond with these Tanoim in the other place, in where it says like this: Mi she meisei mutal lefonov. You have a body in front of yours. You shouldn't eat in front of the body. Oichel b'bayis achar. You eat in another room. Ein lebayis achar. He doesn't have another room. Oichel b'beis chaveri. Then you eat in your friend's room, home. Ein loy beis chaveri. If you don't have a room for your friend. Ein loy mechitza asoret tvachim. You make a partition, which is 10 tvachim high, between you and the mace, and there you eat. Ein loy dovel asis mechitza. If it doesn't have anything to make a partition from, so machzir ponov v'oichel. Then you turn yourself around. You don't have a partition, and you eat. What are you going to do? Shouldn't eat in front of a dead body, but you have no choice. You can turn your way around and you eat over there. Ve'enei meisa v'oichel. So we're talking about the mourner here. He shouldn't lean and eat. He doesn't drink meat, eat meat and drink wine. He's talking about while he's an oinen, while he's in before the burial. Bein mevorich, you can't lead the benching loitzi ein mevorich loitzi acherim dechavosim to fulfill other obligations, because you're not mechuyev in bench, you're potter from the mitzvah, so you can't bench and fulfill others obligation. And further, ve'ein mezamin, you can't lead, say, make the mezuman. Ve'ein mevorchim olav, and you can't make a bracha on him for him because he's not obligated. Ve'ein mezamnin olav, and you can't use him as one of the three to make a mezuman on her. Before we were talking about he doing the mezuman. Now you can't have other people do the mezuman on him. Upatur mikriya shma, he's exempt from reading the shma, uminat tefillah, from prayer, uminat tefillah, from putting on tefillin, umikol mitzvahs hamuras b'Torah, and from all the mitzvahs that the Torah says you don't have to do anything during the morning, during the Einan. However, u'b'Shabbos, when it comes to Shabbos, meisa v'oichel, so over there, you lean and you eat. Shabbos, we don't have any restriction. Before you said that you shouldn't lean, you can lean and eat. V'oichel bosor v'sheisa yain, you can eat meat and drink wine. Umevorech, and you could make the bracha for somebody else. Umezamen, you can make the zimun. Umevorchim, you can make umezamen olav. People can make a bracha for you and put you in the mizuman. V'chayav b'kriya shma u'b'tfilah b'tfilah. V'chol mitzvahs hamuras b'Torah, and you're obligated to reading the shma, the davening tefillin chol mitzvah hamuras b'Torah. So that's on Shabbos. Rabbi Gamliel says, since he's obligated because there's no morning on Shabbos, that's what he says. Which means so once you have to do the Shema, you have to do all the mitzvahs, everything. So on Shabbos, you have to do everything. There's no exemption. So what's the difference really between Rabbi Gamliel and the Tanakama? They both seem to say that you're on Shabbos, it doesn't apply, or you have to do all the mitzvahs. So what's the difference? The difference is the intimate relationship is between them. Rashi, Tasha Mita Ikubenayu. Hoda Omar Nischai Bekulon. This that he says that since you're chayiv in this, you're chayiv in everything. Sovar mutar b'tashmish hamita. He holds that you are permitted in intimacy. B'tanakam sovar. He says since you're mechuyev in the other mitzvah, you're mechuyev in that mitzvah of tashmita as well. And the Tanakama holds also b'tashmish hamita. He holds that it's also in tashmish hamita. So, what would be the machlekes? My lab b'hokom mifligi. Shall we not say that this is the source of the disagreement? The Mar Sovar, that one holds yesh avelus b'Shabbos. There is avelus b'Shabbos. That's why he says that you're also b'tashmish hamita. Marda also b'tashmish. The one who holds that it's prohibited tashmish. Sovar yesh avelus b'Shabbos. He holds there's avelus b'Shabbos, so therefore you're not allowed to. Umar Sovar, and the other one holds. He says that that it's permissible. He holds ein avelus b'Shabbos. So there's no avelus b'Shabbos, and that's the reason why he holds that it's mutter. And the Gemara says, "Mimai, how do you have a proof of it?" Dilma at kan like Omar Tanakama Hosam. The only reason why the Tanakama says over there that you are not allowed to tashmish. Because we're talking about there's a dead in front of you. You didn't bury him yet. So that's why it says it's osur. Aval hocho, but in our case, we're talking about uh, the person is an avelus. It's a regular case of avelus. It's not talking about during an oinen. We're not talking about the maces over there. Aval hocho, the ein mesa mutal lefonov. Here, you don't have the dead in front of him. So loy, then there is no problem. Umar the shori sovar kishmul. Um, okay, so what does the Tana Kama say over there? That because Meisei Mutal Lefonov is also betashmish. Loy. Umar, and the one who says that is permissible, which is Rabbi Yochanan. Umar Deshari Zoktrashi. Savar Kishmuel, Dein Avelus B'Shabbos. No, this Rashi belongs earlier. Sorry, it doesn't belong here. This Rashi belongs. Mar da Osar Yesh Avelus. Umar Sover Ein Avelus B'Shabbos. That means that's where it belongs. Umar Deshari. So that means that Rabbi Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Gamliel, who says that it's permissible, he holds Kishmul, Domar Ein Avelus B'Shabbos. There's no Avelus B'Shabbos, and that's why he allows it. And the Gemara says no Mimai. How do you know this? Dilma Atkan Omar Tanakama also. The only reason why the Tanakama says over there that you're not allowed to elimishum the mason mutlafonov because we have the dead in front of us. So you can't do tashmishim while there's still the person not buried. Aval hocha, but here we're talking about Avelus, talking about Shabbos. He's in the morning already. The ein mason mutlafonov law, he didn't say that you're not allowed to. So maybe he will allow tashmish as well. Um, I don't know exactly. I got to figure out where this Rashi words adayin lecholo. Seems like there's something missing here. I got to figure out this Rashi over here. I got to look in the Gemara. Val korchoch lekomer Rav Gamliel hosam. V'atkan lekomer Rav Gamliel hosam. And we're going to say, when did Rav Gamliel say that it's permissible? Oh, no, here. Dakati lechal avelus aleo. The avelus never rested upon him over there. Rashi says, Adain lechol avelus. The nigbar, he wasn't buried yet. So therefore, Rabbi Gamliel permits it. Aval hocho, but be'az, the chalavelis aleh, he's already been in mourning, and Shabbos comes around. Hochinamhi. So here too, let's turn the page. Oh, hochinamhi. So here too, the din is hochinamhi. Here too, that is would be taka osur. Hochinamhi would be osur. Today we covered a lot of Gemara over here because the pages are going real quick. So let's take a few minutes just to talk about. We'll finish the Gemara over here. We're getting close to the end of the parak. Let's see, we're up to here. This is Chav. We just finished Chav Gimel Amud Beis. We started in Chav Daled Aleph 24a. It goes to 29. We're up to here. So we have only these much pages. Okay, we're getting closer to the end. I just want to mention today, we'll leave it over here. I actually didn't look over further, but um, we're very close to the 24th day of Tavis on Friday. On the 24th day of Tavis is the yahrzeit of the Alter Rebbe. Um, and the Alter Rebbe, who was the founder of Chabad, he was the leader, and he was the new movement, the whole Chabad movement. And what happened was after the Alter Rebbe was imprisoned, and then once and again, but then they moved to a place called Liadi. In Liadi, the governor over there, the one in charge, was very nice to the Alter Rebbe, and they built houses there for all the Hasidim. It was a very good period by the Alter Rebbe, by Chassidim, by Chabad. It expanded tremendously. It really, Yafutzu Ma'anesecha Chutza, to spread the wellspring, really started on a whole new level. And that took place after uh, Petersburg, after the arrest of the Alter Rebbe. And they lived in Liadi. Then they work out the war between Napoleon and the Tsar. There was the Jewish community was split about who's better for the Jews. Now, of course, Napoleon promised freedom. He promised uh, opportunities. And the Tsar, that was all the restrictions and everything else. But yet, the rabbis in that generation were split about who is better for the Jews. The Alter Rebbe's view was that the Tsar is better for the Jews because he was very worried about the freedom and the openness that was given by the French, sort of almost like America today. It was too much opportunity and too much open, and he was worried about how the religion is going to be able to last through it. So the Alter Rebbe was for the Tsar, and some of the other ones were for the Napoleon. Anyways, Napoleon knew the fact that the Rebbe was against him, and they were very quickly. They had this marching and attacking, and they conquered place after place. So they came also to Liadi. They were going to Liadi, and the Alter Rebbe very quickly, with his family and the Chassidim over there, they moved out of Liadi very quickly, and they were traveling. That was right before Rosh Hashanah, and they came just a few months later. They came to uh, a village named Piena, Kfar Piena. And Saturday night, Motzei Shabbos, the Alter Rebbe got sick. He wasn't so old. He was all of 68, I believe. He was born Tov Kuf Hey, and this was Tov Kuf Ayin Gimel. Um, so if it would have been Tov Kuf Ayin Hey, it would have been 70. And it was 2 years short of 70. But he was in reasonably good health, and he was expected to be the leader for many years to come. But he got sick, and then he passed away over there. And one of the writings of the Alter Rebbe, who he wrote when the Reb Mendel Rodoker passed away, in a letter, he says that the life of the tzaddik and the energy of the tzaddik keeps on infusing the next generation, even while he's not anymore in this physical world. Matter of fact, in certain ways, the restrictions that he had in this world, time and space and ability, are no longer there, and he has ability to connect, to impact even stronger and even more than before. And all of his work that he did in his lifetime, those were items that keep on inspiring. They keep on the merits and the activities, and the students, have the responsibility to following in the steps of of their leader, of the Rebbe, and that's the way, through their connection, each one, and their ability to connect is in the way that you get from the leader. And the same is true, by all tzaddikim, by all leaders, especially leaders of the generation, that even after their passing, they continue to inspire, they continue to be there, and they continue to bless, and they continue to uh, pray for and with the struggles that we all have, that we face, and hopefully to accomplish the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu. I know it's a little shorter today, but we'll leave it over here, and we'll continue Mitzvah next week.
Rabbi,
Yes,
isn't it that I think on Yom Kippur the Chabad used a melody from the tune from the French national anthem or something from Napoleon?
that's also one of the things. Yes, his March of Victory, they use that, but that's considered to be a transformation from that March of Victory. And we're saying that they took his March of Victory, but that wasn't for victory for him.
Well, they were rooting for the other team.
Yes, yes, they were. But the song of victory was okay, and they won. Like in the Talmud, there is their expression that the axe for the handle comes from the forest which is chopping, which means that you break you break Napoleon with his own song.
Okay. Okay.
Perhaps that's, yeah, no,
I
but good
was
idea.
curious
No,
how
no,
that
no.
fit into what you
I hear
said.
you. No, no, that's a very good question. Okay, we leave it over here. See everybody next week in Mitzvah Shem.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Rabbi. Thank
Thank
you.
you for joining.